Hello. Today's discussion is going to be about being guided by the universe or being guided by your ego and how that looks different. So I have two examples of that in my own life. I want to start with the guided by the universe, where the guidance is pretty clear. And in 1984, I lived in Fort Worth with my significant other, Jim, and Stefan, my son. And the relationship with Jim had not been going well. It hadn't been going well for years, and it was on again, off again, and I had tried to separate myself numerous times. But I must say the man was just such a prodigiously wonderful lover. It just kept me there a lot longer than maybe I ought to have stayed. Anyway, in '84, I just decided enough was enough. And a friend of mine, Paulette, whom I knew from Philly, visited us, and she was on her way to Santa Fe. And after she visited, she got to Santa Fe, where she stayed with a friend, and then she called me every single week and said, "This is such an amazing place, you should come up and take a look." And she said it over and over again while she was there. So anyway, she went back to Philly, and I decided I would take a look at Santa Fe, and I stayed with her friend Liza in Tasuki. And I got there in the evening, it was dark. In the morning, I sat and watched the sun come up over the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. Liza lived in Tasuki, just a little bit north of Santa Fe. And I was so charmed and delighted and pleased by it that it felt like this really was the place that I wanted to live. I had moved so many different times, always dictated by either my parents or my significant others or my husband. And so this was really the first time in my life, right? This is 1985 now, 84, late 84, that I actually decided where I wanted to live. And so I came up a second time with all of my plants that Liza stored for me. And on the weekend, I decided I would go look for a home to rent. And Liza said, that's really impossible. I mean, housing is so hard to come by. But I circled 5 different places in the newspaper, and I stopped and visited. And I found one I liked. And I told the people, I'm not going to be able to move here till my son and I are done with school, which was in about 6 weeks from then. And he held the place for me with a down payment. And so I had a place to move to. And then the next thing I did is I called a number of law offices. I had just started some paralegal classes, and my typing skills were not great. I wasn't a great typist, but I did okay. And I left messages for these attorneys that I had all of these marvelous skills, including my paralegal skills, and I would be moving to Santa Fe shortly. And lo and behold, I actually was hired by one of these law firms. So I managed to get to Santa Fe, to the house I had rented, and start a new job. And that was an example of the universe basically saying, this is really what we want you to do. This is a good thing for you. So fast forward, my goodness, how many years? 30-something years to 2018, when I had decided I'm done with law. It's too exhausting. I'm spending too much time sitting at a desk. It's not good for me. It's not healthy. And so I decided that what I really wanted to do is I really wanted to go sail to the Caribbean. And the universe was not fully in supporting this. But I had my mind made up that this is what I wanted to do. And so I closed the business, got rid of all the furniture and furnishings in this gorgeous house that I had. And then I had bought a 28-foot sailboat, which was docked in Panama City, Florida. So on this day in May, the beginning of May 2018, I headed down to Florida. And even on the way, the universe was challenging me because as I was driving past Houston during a really busy time, I think it was morning rush hour, and they had like 7, 8 lanes of very busy traffic, bumper to bumper, my car suddenly showed that it was overheating. So now I had to manage to get myself all the way to the right exit lane over there and off the highway, and I could not figure out what was wrong with it. So I gave it a while to cool off, and then I got back on the highway. And as soon as I started moving more, the car's heating problem seemed to subside. Anyway, it made me anxious the rest of the trip to Panama City because I had no idea what was wrong with it. So, but I got there, and then I struggled with my fear of taking this boat, and there's a picture of it right in back of me over there. It weighed 9,000 pounds, and I was terrified that if I didn't have proper control of it, I would crash it into other boats or into the stones or rocks that were not too far away from where it was docked. So it took me almost 3 months before I took the boat out sailing with both sails up myself. And in the meantime, I had to deal with this fear day by day until I gradually overcame it. And that was very challenging. But I was still kind of bucking the universe here because in October of 2018, Hurricane Michael decided to visit Panama City, and it was a Category 5 hurricane. And I was there with my boat, and there were 10 of us liveaboards who decided that we would stay in the clubhouse and weather out this hurricane that was coming towards us. Very, very exciting. It did some damage to my boat, which took me then another year to get the boat put back to rights again. But I still was hell-bent on my goal of getting to these incredibly turquoise clear waters in the Caribbean. And so even though the universe kept telling me, are you sure you really want to do this? Positive? I said, yeah, I really do. I really need to do this. And so eventually I hired a captain, and as many of you already know, that captain turned out not to be optimal. He was sick within an hour of leaving my slip in Caribou at that time, and he continued to be sick all the way down to St. Petersburg, where we stayed for a couple of days, and then from St. Petersburg to Marathon, he was sick some more. And then he left the boat in Marathon, and I had to end up getting another captain. But again, the universe was asking, are you sure that you want to do this? Are you quite positive you want to go through with this? And I said, oh yes, I really want to do this, because I had my heart set on this goal. And so I hired a different captain, and he and I took 8-hour shifts. 6-hour shifts, I think it was. Mostly my shifts were at night, and I know one night I was out in the cockpit, and the winds, they were up to like 35 miles an hour. And the automatic pilot just could not keep up with the force of the wind, could not keep the boat steered in the direction that I needed to take it, and the boat started to spin. And I'm thinking, oops, my necklace is coming off too. It doesn't like me jumping up and down, I guess. Anyway, there I was, at night on this boat. The captain that I had hired was asleep down below, and the boat is doing horrible things. So I got him to come up, and he rescued me and the boat. And we made it to the Virgin Islands. And there I was. But in the meantime, in the last couple of days underway, the automatic pilot mechanism had gone out. So now I looked for a mechanic to help me fix that. And the mechanic I ended up drawing, he ended up coming to the boat with the wrong belt, even though I had given him the exact belt measurements. He brought the wrong belt like 3 weeks later, and so it took another 3 weeks, like 6 weeks. The boat had no automatic steering going on. So when he came back with the right belt, I then had him next do something about the ignition switch, which was going bad. So he replaced that, but he made a mistake. When he replaced it, I no longer had oil pressure, I no longer had RPMs, I no longer had how much gasoline, diesel fuel there was. He disabled all of the gauges with whatever it was he did. And so, I mean, gradually I started to realize you can't do this by yourself. You just can't do it by yourself. You need someone who can constantly monitor the boat and fix things when they go wrong, which in Florida was no problem. There was no shortage of decent mechanics there. But in the Virgin Islands, the really good ones, they worked on the really big, expensive boats. And I didn't have a big, expensive boat. I had a little 28-foot old. Well, I loved it, but it was not a great boat. So I realized with all of these setbacks and problems that my choice, my goal, I had made it to where I wanted to be, but it's not going to work for me. And I ended up selling the boat and coming back to New Mexico, and I ended up getting myself recently involved in the law. But those are two stories of how you can gauge if you are moving in the right direction, if you're really paying attention to what the universe has in store for you. There's always guidance. It always gives you some guidance. And when things go wrong repeatedly, you should know that the force is not with you and go a different direction. All right. So that's my message for this weekend. Hope you are all doing well. I know we have I can't even begin to think of it coming up. I don't want to think of it, so I won't. Try to have a lovely next week, no matter what, okay? All right. It's up to you to decide whether you're going to feel joyful, happy, loving, or something else. Pick what feels good.